Shabbat Shalom. This week, the regular cycle of the Torah portion is suspended, and instead we read a special portion that is special for the Sabbath that falls in the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles, the holiday of Sukkot. And we read from Exodus chapter 33 and 34. And I'd like to focus on a small portion of that, these chapters that we read today. The situation here is after Moses has come down, he has seen the golden calf after he has come down from Sinai, and he is praying to God, asking that God should forgive the children of Israel and continue in his position as God of the people, leading us into the land. And it's very interesting elements of the prayer, but I would like to focus on a very small section of it. He says here in verse 16, let's start with verse 15. And he said unto him, if your face go not, bring us not up hence. This actually is a response to something God has said earlier. In his anger at the children of Israel, he's saying, I'm not going to lead them into the land of Israel. I will send an angel instead. And here Moses is referring, if your face will not go before us, in other words, if you personally are not going to be there leading us, don't bother taking us up. Don't bother bringing us to the land of Israel. And then he continues, for where shall it be known here that I and your people have found favor in your eyes? Is it not in that you go with us? So shall we be distinguished, I and your people, from all the people that are upon the face of the earth. So here, Moses says very specifically, first of all, the importance of God actually in an obvious way leading the children of Israel. Because this is how we, the children of Israel, will know that God is with us. We have to be able to see him leading us. And then he goes on, by that relationship, by that direct leadership that God has with the Jewish people, that is how we are distinguished from the people around, all the rest of the peoples all over the world. Then Moses goes on and asks God to show him his honor, his glory. And God answers as follows, and this is in verse 19. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before your face, and I will call by name all eternal before you. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy. And then he continues, and then of course he continues and actually, in a sense, gives Moses a glimpse of what his glory is. And that's not something I will focus on today. However, here we have two issues. First of all, Moses is asking God to directly continue to lead the children of Israel to the land, and it is through that direct leadership that Israel is distinguished from the other nations. And secondly, he says, when he asks God to show his glory, God's response is, yes, you will call in the name of God, and his response has to do with mercy. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy. And what really is going on here, I believe, is that God is setting forth an aspect of his relationship with the children of Israel that will be an eternal relationship. He does commit to gathering the people. He says in verse 17, yes, I will do this that you have asked me to do. In other words, he agrees with Moses, and he will lead the children of Israel into Israel. He will continue to have that direct relationship, which is an unusual, distinguished relationship. But at the same time, he responds in the name of mercy. There are two aspects to God that we see in his relationship with human beings. There is the aspect of judgment, of law, and there is the aspect of mercy. Here, God focuses on the aspect of mercy. And indeed, it is through the relationship of mercy, it is through the aspect of mercy that God is able to commit himself to us forever. Because under a relationship of law, we could sin and we would be punished. And if our only relationship with God was based on judgment, was based on law, then it would be very easy to fall out of favor with God. And it would be very easy for God to keep in his anger. In the anger that he expresses over our worship, over the children of Israel's worship of the golden calf, is an anger that is produced from law, from judgment. The children of Israel did wrong. They sinned. And therefore, God is saying, they do not deserve to be in my presence. They do not deserve for me to be a leader of them, to have this direct relationship. However, when he comes back to Moses, he is responding according to the aspect of God that is expressed in mercy. Yes, the children of Israel may not deserve this direct relationship, but yet I have chosen the children of Israel. I will continue to lead them. This is how they are special, and that will be done in mercy. I think it's interesting, and I think it's particularly significant that this portion is read on the holiday of the Feast of Tabernacles. It is also read during the Sabbath that falls in the middle of the holiday of Passover. Now, although both of these holidays have different customs and represent different aspects of the redemption of the children of Israel in that period of time, the Exodus from Egypt and afterwards in the desert, what both of these holidays have in common, and indeed have in common with a third holiday, the holiday of Shavuot, the holiday of Pentecost, is that these are the times when the children of Israel are commanded to come up to Jerusalem every year. And if I refer back to, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 13, we begin the description of how the holiday of Sukkot, how the Feast of Tabernacles is celebrated. And we have, in verse 15, you shall celebrate this holiday 7 days to God in the place that God has chosen. And then in verse 16, we have 3 times a year, you will all appear, you will all be seen before God in the place that he has chosen on the holiday of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, on the holiday of Shavuot, of Pentecost, and on the Feast of Tabernacles. You shall not be seen before God empty-handed. And then it goes on, of course, to talk about the fact that everyone comes with an offering, everybody comes with something to put up, to bring as a sacrifice. This word of choosing repeats itself several times in the context of celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles. And it's usually talked about, or in all of the feasts, and it's talked about usually in context of God having chosen the place, chosen Jerusalem, as the place where we are going to go and meet God. In these verses that we read in our portion today, in Exodus, the focus is on the choosing of the people of Israel. In Deuteronomy, the focus is on choosing of the place. Both are talking about God's very special relationship to the people of Israel. For he has chosen us, for he has led us directly, and indeed, as he leads us into the land of Israel, we will be led to meet him directly in the place that he has chosen in Jerusalem. This then is the essence of the celebration of the holiday, certainly when the temple stood, and hopefully once again we will be able to rebuild the temple sometime soon and again experience the full meaning of the holiday of the Feast of Tabernacles, meeting God directly in the place that he has chosen. Shabbat Shalom from Samaria.